Special bill proposed to ensure government completes full term. High-speed rail project unaffected by Japanese firm's withdrawal. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I'm Mohana Priya. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi has proposed the introduction of a bill in Parliament aimed at maintaining a particular government until the end of its term. When met after attending a workshop by the Ministry of Rural and Regional Development in Kuala Lumpur today, he also emphasised that this would prevent the recurrence of instances where the Prime Minister was changed 3 times during the 14th Parliament term.
Saya ingin menyarankan supaya satu rang undang-undang dibentangkan bahawa jika sebuah kerajaan itu diwujudkan atas sama ada sebuah parti itu dominan atau gabungan parti-parti politik itu dominan dan mendapat perkenan daripada Tuanku Yang Dipertua, maka ianya harus kekal hingga ke akhir penggal. Jika tidak, kita akan mengalami perkara yang terdahulu dan ini tidak baik untuk negara dan untuk rakyat keseluruhannya.
Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid further emphasised the need for a paradigm shift among politicians, urging a collective mindset change to make way for a coalition of political parties approved by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to govern the country until the conclusion of the final parliament sitting. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the Kuala Lumpur-Singapore High-Speed Rail or HSR project remains unaffected, even though Japanese firms have withdrawn from involvement in the construction of the project. Elaborating further on the matter, Loke said that the Japanese companies are free to decide whether to participate in the project or not, as it is still in the request for information or RFI stage.
Kalau dia tak berminat untuk masuk tender, itu terpulanglah. Kan kita buat RFI terbuka. Mengapa kita rasa tertekan? Mungkin dia rasa tak sesuai untuk dia, model yang kita nak laksanakan. Terpulanglah. Jadi banyak pihak lagi. Ada beratus syarikat yang telah pun menyatakan minat.
Loke stated that the RFI process will conclude this Monday and the decisions of companies expressing interest in the HSR will be known thereafter before moving on to the request for proposal or RFP stage. Yesterday, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim announced that the government would evaluate the impact of the withdrawal of Japanese firms from the Kuala Lumpur-Singapore HSR project. It followed a report from the Japanese news agency Kyodo News, quoting sources that the decision of the Japanese companies to withdraw was due to the project becoming too risky without the financial support of the Malaysian government. And on another note, Loke said Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Berhad, or KTMB, is offering free rides to Klang Valley KTM commuters on the 24th and 25th January in conjunction with the Thaipusam Festival, which falls on the 25th of January. He said some 250,000 passengers are expected to use the service during this period, peaking on the 25th of January. Loke announced that additional KTM commuter services would operate around the clock for 4 days from the 23rd to the 26th January, with 28 stations operating 24 hours throughout the period compared to 26 stations last year. A total of 33 trains are for the Batu Caves Pulau Sebang Batu Caves route, with 39 for the Batu Caves Port Klang Batu Caves route. The additional commuter services will begin at 9:55 p.m. from Pulau Sebang to Batu Caves on 23rd January with a 1-hour train frequency, while the extra commuter services from the Port Klang station to Batu Caves will begin at 11:39 p.m. also with a 1-hour frequency. Loke, however, noted that there are no additional train services from Tanjung Malim to Batu Caves and vice versa. But users from this route can take the commuter trains from Tanjung Malim station to Putra, Bank Negara, Kuala Lumpur and KL Central stations and transferred to KTM commuter trains to Batu Caves. Meanwhile, Lok said KTMB also offers 4 additional electric train services or ETS with an additional 3,150 tickets from the 24th to the 28th January. The federal government is committed to addressing the prolonged water supply disruptions in Labuan, designating it a top priority in alignment with the Prime Minister's directive. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Federal Territories, Dr. Zaliha Mustafa, also emphasised the importance of promptly resolving the persistent water supply challenges on the duty-free island. She highlighted the comprehensive measures being taken to enhance Labuan's basic infrastructure for the benefit of its residents and overall economic progress. According to Dr. Zaliha, a pivotal component of this initiative involves the implementation of 3 pipe replacement projects covering a total length of 70 kilometres with an estimated cost of 108 million ringgit.
Saya juga telah meminta bahagian air bekalan air untuk meneliti keperluan jangka masa panjang juga, ya. Sebab bagi saya jangka pendeknya of course kita kena menyelesaikan masalah itu, tapi kita kena lihat in future, sebab bila kita nak bangunkan Labuan ini sebagai hub ekonomi, hub pelancongan dan juga pendidikan ini, dia perlu ada satu kata unjuran juga untuk masa depan. Jadi saya juga meminta supaya bahagian bekalan air melihat perkara ini dengan lebih teliti dan mengutamakannya.
Speaking to reporters in Labuan today, Dr. Zaliha said the pipe replacement projects are set to be executed in stages and are projected to be completed as early as June this year. Still ahead in our business segment, Pharma sets a nearly 60 million ringgit sales target for Madani Agro sales. The Federal Agricultural Marketing Authority of Pharma has set a sales target of 57.6 million ringgit for the 2024 Madani Agro Sales Program to be held at 5,000 locations in the country this year. Pharma Chairman Aminuddin Zulkifli said the initiative is expected to benefit 7.2 million households with savings estimated at 77.25 million ringgit. The Madani Agro Sales Initiative is implemented through 3 agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, namely Pharma, the Farmers Organisation Authority and the Malaysian Fish Development Board, as a strategy to help low-income people, especially the B40 group, face the challenges of the high cost of living. The sales activities carried out at the Madani Agro Sales Program includes the sales of various agro-food items such as vegetables, fruits, fish, chicken, meat and eggs directly from the farm at 10 to 30% lower than the local market price. Last year, the program recorded a sales value exceeding the target, totaling 90.8 million ringgit. It was held at 5,271 locations nationwide and involved the participation of 73,508 entrepreneurs. The program also recorded savings of 27.2 million ringgit for 10.5 million households. Maybank Investment Bank, or Maybank IB's projection of 4.4% growth for Malaysia's economy this year is a mean reversion as the economy grew slower in 2023 due to the extraordinary base effect when growth surged almost 9% in 2022 with the opening up of the economy in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybank Group Chief Economist Suhaimi Ilyas said the reason for the projected growth outlook is due to a combination of factors such as resilient consumer spending, continued positive momentum in investment growth, and an expected rebound of exports of goods and services.
Unemployment rate was 3.3%. In November last year, that is actually a return to the pre-pandemic level. So we are talking about a job market condition that is pretty much returned to the situation before the pandemic. The other thing to highlight is that private consumption also include spending by foreign tourists in the economy when they come over here to spend their holidays. So when we look at tourism revenue as a percentage of private consumption before COVID, it is around an average 24-25%, very significant.
On the local currency front, Maybank Group's regional head of Forex research, Saktiandi Supaat, said the group is not expecting that the ringgit would hit 4 ringgit 80 cent against the $1 this year, although it did touch the level back in October 2023, which was mainly driven by the US dollar's strengthening. Bursa Malaysia's benchmark index, the FBM KLCI, is set to rise, with projections placing it at 1,610 points by the end of this year. Head of Ikuti Research at Maybank Investment Bank, Wong Chew Han, said this anticipated increase is driven by a promising domestic and international environment. Wong said the growing investors' confidence in the Malaysian stock market is also driven by the clarity of government policies, such as the National Energy Transition Roadmap and the new Industrial Master Plan 2030.
Yeah, we are actually expecting the KLCI to be higher this year, to end this year on a higher note. Our year-end KLCI target is 1610, and this represents a 10.7% upside from end last year's level. And of course, the execution of the macro blueprints is actually very important to actually lift KLCI, as well as corporate earnings growth in lifting the KLCI.
However, Wong said external factors such as US federal rate hikes, continued geopolitical tensions, and escalation of conflict in Gaza, Ukraine, as well as the rivalry between the United States and China, could lead to lower economic activity and financial stability. The Department of Federal Territories has outlined a comprehensive plan comprising 92 programs aimed at boosting the socio-economic landscape in Malaysia's International Business and Financial Centre of Labuan. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Federal Territories, Dr. Zaliha Mustafa, said these programs involve collaboration with various government agencies in the island, emphasizing the need for Labuan's economic progress to align with other developing states, given its status as an international business and financial centre and oil and gas hub. Dr. Zaliha underscored the importance of concerted efforts. She said the 92 programs are strategically designed to propel Labuan forward on the path of sustainable development. In a move to further diversify Labuan's revenue streams and enhance its appeal, Dr. Zaliha has issued a directive to the local authority of Labuan Corporation to establish a special task force. Recognizing the untapped tourism potential within Labuan, she expressed confidence that the task force would play a pivotal role in transforming these hidden gems into attractive tourism packages. Dr. Zaliha emphasized that the strategic development of Labuan's tourism sector is crucial for the island's overall economic growth. She expressed optimism about the task force's ability to uncover undiscovered tourism potential, which can subsequently be crafted into innovative and enticing tourism packages. In a related development, Pakatan Harapan Labuan has submitted a memorandum highlighting crucial issues related to the people's well-being and economic development of the duty-free island. Among others, the memorandum underscored the necessity for a new port facility, as the existing port is deemed inadequate for efficient logistics operations, particularly for large goods associated with the oil and gas industry. It said this long-term plan aims to position Labuan as a major player in the industry, leveraging its strategic geographical location. Additionally, PH Labuan also advocated for increased air connectivity to stimulate tourism, calling for more flights to and from the island, recognizing the potential for economic growth within the tourism sector. Finally, PH Labuan has appealed to the government to incentivize direct shipping to Labuan Port, discouraging the current practice of utilizing the Sepangga Port, which incurs double transportation charges and contributes to an increase in prices of goods. It added that these measures will not only enhance Labuan's economic prospects, but also fortify its role in regional trade and connectivity. Now, the creation of the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, JSSEZ, is a win-win situation for both countries. According to Putra Business School Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif, the special zone will bolster trade and investment, tourism and people-to-people connectivity, as well as foster sustainable ties between Malaysia and its neighbour across the causeway. He said the formation and realization of this zone could also reduce bureaucratic hurdles by providing a faster and convenient service system.
Kalau kita lihat dari segi urusan perdagangan dan pemindahan kargo, urusan tersebut juga dijangkakan menjadi lebih cepat dan juga cekap dan lebih selamat melalui aplikasi teknologi yang terkini, kemungkinan menggunakan teknologi blockchain. Oleh itu, tidak mustahil kita akan melihat negeri Johor akan kekal menarik pelaburan FDI yang tertinggi setiap tahun, sekaligus akan menjadikan Malaysia kekal sebagai negara yang berdaya saing dan mampan dari segi ekonomi.
The US Federal Reserve posted its biggest ever operating loss last year as the impact of higher interest rates caused its interest expense to surge. The Fed began rapidly raising the benchmark lending rate in March 2022 as policymakers looked to puncture a surge in prices that pushed inflation well above its long-term target of 2%. Policymakers swiftly lifted rates to a 22-year high and have held them steady since then, leading to a sharp rise in the cost of interest in the US Central Bank pays out to banks that store their money at the Fed. As a result, the Fed's expenses exceeded its estimated earnings by $104.3 billion. However, although the Fed incurred its worst ever operating loss last year, it does not need to ask the Congress or the Treasury Department for more money to make ends meet. In normal times, the Fed's 12 regional banks transfer their earnings from holding securities to the Treasury Department after deducting costs like the interest they pay to banks. But when the Fed loses more than it earns, as has been the case since September 2022, it simply books these losses as a deferred asset and broadly stops paying money to the Treasury. Once the Fed starts earning more than it spends again, as will likely happen once interest rates fall, it will only begin paying profits to the Treasury once they exceed the deferred assets. Delta Airlines saw its profits more than double in the fourth quarter last year, helped by strong travel demand, even as it trimmed its earnings expectations for this year. The company reported net income of more than $2 billion for the October to December period, up from $828 million for the same period in 2022. Its revenue jumped to $14.2 billion for the quarter, helped by the highest holiday travel volumes in its history. Delta Chief Executive Ed Bastian said in 2024, demand for air travel remains strong and the company's customer base is in a healthy financial position with travel a top priority. But in its earnings report, Delta lowered its full-year earnings forecast for this year slightly from over $7 per share projected in 2022 to $6 to $7 per share. In an earnings webcast, the company executive said volatile energy prices, along with lingering supply chain costs and issues, have caused them to be slightly cautious and prudent in making the earnings guidance. For the first quarter this year, Delta expects its revenue to rise by 3 to 6% and anticipates earnings per share of between 25 cents and 50 cents. This should come on the back of strong international travel demand and a positive inflection in the domestic environment. Oil prices climbed yesterday after US and UK forces launched strikes against Iran-backed Houthi group, while global stocks were mixed following the kickoff of corporate earnings season. Crude prices spiked more than 4% before ebbing somewhat after the allies launched deadly strikes following weeks of disruptive attacks by the Houthi group on Red Sea shipping. The fear in oil markets is that the region is on an unpredictable escalating path where at some point down the road the supply of oil will indeed, in the end, be lost. An analyst said if the US-UK attacks were unsuccessful in destroying Houthi weapons and oil tankers need to go around Africa, then up to 80 million barrels will be locked in transit, sending prices up as much as $5 to $10 per barrel. Meanwhile, in Friday trade, the Dow dipped while the S&P 500 edged higher as investors digested corporate earnings and a surprise drop in wholesale inflation. Leading banks were mostly lower following a deluge of quarterly results, while airlines were hammered after Delta's forecast disappointed investors. Tokyo and European stock markets ended the week with strong gains. China's annual foreign trade posted better than anticipated performance last year, with the export and import volume hitting a new high in December. China's annual foreign trade value topped $5.87 trillion in 2023, up 0.2% year on year. The General Administration of Customs said imports and exports of goods were better than expected and have achieved the goal of promoting stability and improving quality. Last year, the first quarter registered $1.3 trillion in foreign trade, and the other three quarters all exceeded $1.4 trillion. In December, the foreign trade volume reached $535 billion, a record monthly high. As China makes steady progress in high-level opening up, the development of new platforms and new business forms is gaining momentum. Preliminary statistics show that China's cross-border e-commerce imports and exports totaled $334 billion in 2023. Meanwhile, China's imports and exports last year with countries along the Belt and Road reached $2.7 trillion, up by 2.8% and accounting for 46.6% of the total import and export value. This marked a 1.2% point increase. Thailand's new permanent visa-free policy, effective 1st March this year, in addition to previously giving temporary visa waiver status to Chinese tourists, has sparked an irresistible allure to Chinese tourists, fueling their fervour to explore the wonders of Thailand. Announced by Thai Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin on 2nd January, the decision to permanently waive visa requirements for Chinese citizens propelled Thailand to become one of the top 3 sought-after destinations for Chinese tourists during the recent New Year holiday. In a notable shift, more Chinese tourists are opting for independent travel and prioritizing immersive experience and top-notch services during their stay in Thailand. The Thai Ministry of Tourism and Sports revealed that in the first week of this year alone, over 600,000 foreign tourists visited Thailand, with a staggering 80,000 hailing from China, securing the top spot. As Thailand's tourism industry plays a pivotal role in its economy, recording 28 million foreign tourist arrivals in 2023, including 4.4 million from Malaysia and 3.4 million from China, the visa-free policy stands as a beacon of opportunity, propelling Thailand's tourism sector to new heights. And coming up in the foreign segment, a U.S. regulator keeps Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes grounded. Now, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration of FAA said that all 737 MAX 9 planes would remain grounded until Boeing provides further data following a near-catastrophic incident on an Alaska Airlines-operated aircraft. The FAA said planes would be grounded until extensive inspection and maintenance is conducted and data from inspections is reviewed. In the dramatic 5th January incident, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 from Portland executed an emergency landing after a panel known as a door plug blew out mid-flight. There were no fatalities or serious injuries reported. The FAA has launched a safety probe into the incident, the first major in-flight safety issue on a Boeing plane since fatal 2018 and 2019 737 MAX crashes that led to a lengthy grounding of the aircraft. The FAA said it needed additional information from Boeing before approving the manufacturer's proposed inspection and maintenance instructions. The regulator said it would not approve the inspection and maintenance process until it reviews data from the initial round of 40 inspections, but added that it was encouraged by the exhaustive nature of Boeing's instructions for inspections and maintenance. Israel pounded Gaza as the Palestinian territory suffered under a dire humanitarian situation and grappled with a telecommunications blackout on the 99th day of the war. Fears of the conflict widening have grown after US and British forces struck the Houthi group in Yemen following attacks on Red Sea shipping, with a fresh US airstrike confirmed today. Witnesses reported Israeli bombardment of Gaza in the early mornings, with strikes and shelling had hit areas between Gaza's southern cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah, which were crowded with people and have fled from the north. All internet and telecommunications services in Gaza were cut yesterday as a result of Israeli bombardment. The Palestinian Red Crescent posted that the disruption was increasing the challenges in reaching the wounded and injured promptly. In central Gaza, a lack of fuel forced the shutdown of the main generator of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir el-Balah. UN aid agency, meanwhile, said that Israel was constantly blocking humanitarian aid convoys into northern Gaza. Israel's relentless bombardment of Gaza has killed more than 23,000 people, mostly women and children. And on to our sports story tonight. Chilean qualifier Alejandro Tabilo capped a crazy ride by winning the Auckland Classic, beating Taro Daniel 6-2, 7-5 in a final between two tournament outsiders. World number 82 Tabilo bagged his maiden ATP title, which he says will deliver an injection of confidence heading into the Australian Open after 2 years of pain and frustration. Canadian-born left-hander Tabilo played with greater power than his Japanese opponent, sending down 10 aces while also pulling off 3 breaks of serve to none. 2 breaks came in the first set, which he dominated, before Tabilo pulled off the lone break in game 12 of a tense second set to seal victory between two players who have never been ranked inside the top 60. 30-year-old Daniel was chasing a second ATP title, having last won nearly 6 years ago at the Istanbul Open. The world number 74's path to the final included a semi-final upset of top-seeded American Ben Shelton. Tabilo had the fortune of a walkover quarterfinal win against a second-seeded Briton Cameron Norrie before toppling French 6th-seed Arthur Fils in straight sets. Tabilo is drawn to face Alexander Kovacevic in the opening round of the Australian Open, while Daniel will also face an American first-up, Chris Eubanks.
Kejohanan bola sepak Piala Asia Qatar 2023. Kesebelasan terbaik Harimau Melaya kini bersedia untuk memburu tahta berprestij di Asia. Selasa 16 Januari, Malaysia bertemu Jordan 1 pagi di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik bersama RTM, official media partner.
And that concludes this evening's Malaysia Tonight. In our top story tonight, special bill proposed to ensure government completes full term. Do tune in to World Today, coming up tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. on TV2. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Mohana Priya. Thank you for watching.